Okay, so second video. I wanted to talk about how I designed the cuts to happen. I don't know if it happened exactly like this because, again, remember, I was losing an eighth of an inch that I didn't even know I was going to lose. So basically, what I ended up doing was saying, okay, I have my 2x4s. I was going to get a 4x8 piece of wood because that's the biggest size that they had in a pretty standard size at Home Depot. So I got a 4x8 piece and I said, okay, slice that into fours. So then you end up having four 2x4s here, another four 2x4s. That would account for 8 of my sides. Then, let's see. On the third 4x8, we would have the last 2x4 side. And then each of these three would be trimmed down to 22 1/4 inch by 4. Because 22 1/4 is nearly 24 inches, which is 2 feet. So again, I could fit that. I think what they ended up doing was spreading these backs throughout the other two things. So they'd have 3 2x4s and a 22 1/4 inch by 4. And they made that work so I wouldn't lose my eighth of an inch on anything on those. Then however you design it though, I mean, just make sure you account for how much you're going to lose with the saw because I didn't think about that. And luckily I had people that were doing the cuts for me that thought about that. So, we'll see how that works out. For the other 3/4 inch piece that I have the tops and the bottoms. So, 6 of those, again, it's 2 feet by 2 feet and 2 feet here. And then the 22 1/4 inch gets trimmed here and here and here. Then I ended up having this left over, and this was actually for the front of the drawers, if you recall. I'll come back to this in a little bit. I want to talk about the side drawers first and the bottom drawers. So I took one 4x8 and I made 24 drawers for the bottom drawers. I ended up having a little bit left over, which worked out when I was losing that eighth of an inch, but it did unfortunately short me here because this was exact because when they were 8 inches, 8 inch times 6 is 48 inches, which is 4 feet. So here I really didn't have wiggle room. Here I did. So these cuts were okay because they were able to get the full 23. These cuts were not. So these drawers ended up being something like 7 inches or so because they were losing an eighth in each place, which adds up to quite a bit, or 7.5 or something like that. Now, when I talked to the people who cut my wood, they said they were able to reorganize the cuts so that they only really lost space on 2 boards per 4x8. Now, I don't know exactly what that means or what they were able to do, but, we'll see how it goes. Again, I'm going to just use those as side pieces so I don't have to buy a whole other, 2x4 or something like that to get those extra pieces and then waste a bunch of wood. But because the bottom drawers and the side drawers are basically the same dimensions, I just used this design for this one and for the right side drawers. So you just basically have the same cuts for, and you do it 3 times into 4x8s. And then you have your 24 right side pieces, 24 left side pieces, and 24 bottom pieces. Then what I did was for the back pieces, I have 9x11. Now, because 9 inches does not go evenly into 48, I ended up having a whole bunch of space left over, which again helped me out because when they lost the eighth of an inch, that's okay. They could take it out of this extra. And then 11 inches over here, and so I basically had them go to 55, or I guess when they lost the eighth of an inch, they went a little farther, but that was okay. So I got my 25 actually because it came out to 25, but I only need 24 pieces of the 9x11. So then what happened was I wanted to use those front drawers and ended up having like almost 3 feet or 3x8 feet of this wood left over. So what I did was I had them cut and make these front drawer pieces. So they ended up being 8 by 10.25, so 10 1/4, which might have been less by the time they, lost a little bit of wood. But basically, I structured it to make about 16 of them. I don't know what they ended up being able to get because, again, I was going to lose some. And then because 16 wasn't enough, because I needed 24, I went over here to this piece because I ended up having a bunch of this 3/4 inch left over, right? Now it doesn't matter about the thickness because it's going to be inside the drawer, and I'll just lose a little space inside of my drawer where I can put my comics. And 1/4 inch is 1/4 inch, right? So I said, well, just use this and cut it up into whatever you can get out of the 8 by 10 and 1/4 inch, and we'll just see what we have. And we ended up having a little extra left over, which again worked out. And they were able to get a few more pieces from here. So I got 12 when I was doing the planning. So that means that I'll have a little bit extra, and hopefully I'll have enough for all of my front drawers. So then once that is done, I did do a rough plan of the costs. So just so you can see all of the pieces. So I ended up getting four 4x8s at a 3-inch thickness of birch plywood sheets. You can use plywood for this because it's strong enough and it's great. So the sanded version was about $50 each. So that totaled me about $200 on just the 3/4 inch. And then I got another 4 of the 1/2 inch sheets, and that was $40 a piece. So it ended up being about $160. Okay. So I went and I got those. Then I had handles. Handles did cost me a bit. They totaled about $45. I ended up going with these round cabinet knobs, but they are back mounted. So we're going to see if we can back mount them into the plexiglass. If not, I'm just going to go ahead and return them, and I'll get some actual cabinet pulls that are front mounted. There just weren't very many options when it came to front mount handles that looked nice. So I don't know what I'm going to do with that. So then drawer slides, those again were really expensive. I got the Liberty 22 inch. If you notice, I'm putting these SKW numbers. These are at Home Depot, so in case you wanted to get the same kinds that I did, you can just use those numbers and go to Home Depot and look online, their website, they have them. But I got the full extension ball bearing side mount Liberty 22 inch. Those were about $15.50 a pair, so it ended up being about $371. I think with something like tax and shipping or whatever, it's like $400. But yeah, those were really expensive, but hopefully they'll be worth it. These have a 1/2 inch clearance on either side exactly for the drawers, the 1/2 inch clearance. So then for stain and lacquer, I instead of dark walnut, I ended up getting black cherry because I liked the look better when I was at the store. But you can get a 2-pack online. I ended up just getting 1 pack, or just one of them. But yeah, that's about $15 or $20. And then the lacquer, I ended up getting something that was a lot more because I needed a gallon, and I didn't realize how much I needed. And I did not get the spray paint. I got something that would be painted on with like a brush. So you would need like those foam paint brushes or something to be able to do that if you wanted to lacquer it yourself. But yeah, I mean, I ended up getting something a little bit different than this because the people that I had doing the work for me, because I have some people that I know that do construction, they were willing to do that for me. So I ended up getting something a little bit different. So the stain and lacquer totaled about $40 by the time I was done getting the stain and the lacquer from Home Depot. And then the plexiglass sheet, I actually saved on this because the people that I was using to do all, like the stain and the lacquer and the cuts for me, they actually had a whole giant sheet of plexiglass that was 1/8 of an inch thick, and they were willing to let me use that. So they did the cuts for me for free, and they stained and lacquered it for free, and they were also willing to give me the plexiglass. So I saved on that, but the 1/8 of an inch thick was about $116 to get enough of what I needed. The wood screws, 2 inches, 75 pack would be about $8. 3-inch screws, about $6. I went to Home Depot. I think I got a better deal than this, but it was about that, under $10 per pack at least. Then I ended up getting these couple of things. I got some Carpenter's wood glue because the wood glue would help hold the wood pieces together, particularly like the drawers, until I could screw it in. Definitely don't just use wood glue. You'd want to use screws to, for support and to hold everything together. But Carpenter's wood glue is kind of helpful to keep everything just tight until you do get the screws in. It just provides a little extra support. And then I got a level because I don't have that in my personal kit, and I'm going to need that when I, put pieces together. So this is the structure, everything that I have. I approximated it to be about 10,000, not 10,000, 1,050. I think so far I bought like the wood, the handles, the drawer sliders, the stain and the lacquer. I, of course, didn't have to buy the plexiglass, so I saved on that. I bought the screws, and I bought these extra things. In total, I think I've spent about $850, which is actually a lot better than I had planned. I might have to buy more stuff because, my guys ended up staining and lacquering everything instead of just the outside pieces. So I might need to buy more stain and lacquer. Who knows, depending on what they need. But, we'll see how it goes. I'm not 100% sure. There are obviously changes that happen as we go through. That is basically it for now. The wood is still being stained and lacquered. So once I get those done and once they're finished, then I'll be able to show you guys what that looks like. And once I start assembling, I'll do another video so you can see what all that, how it all comes together. So hopefully, this goes well. If you start one yourself, know that it's not a quick project. It's going to take some time. It took me about a week or two to really plan all of this, get all of my measurements down, figure out what pieces I was going to get, what items I was going to use, like just everything took a long time to put together. And I was fortunate that I know some people that, I work at a school and they have a construction department. They were willing to help me out with the cuts and the stain and lacquer. So the students would actually do it, and I get free labor, and they'd have materials to work with. And, so I bought the materials. They did the work. It was kind of nice. So we'll see. I'll show you guys hopefully a video next time once everything is all put together. But here are the plans in case you want to design one of your own. Okay? Have a happy weekend, and I'll see you next time.